Hello and welcome to a what sold video. This is going to be everything that sold for me at the end of October, so October 22nd to October 31st. And we're going to start with Etsy because I actually made an Etsy sale, and it is this Pendleton top. It is 100% polyester. It was like a scarf neck deal where the scarf was attached to the neck, and it sold for $18 after I cross-posted it everywhere, and I'm really happy that it sold on Etsy. This came from that big vintage buyout, so the buy cost at this point is nothing, and so everything is pure profit. So I'm very happy about this sale. It did require restyling on Karen, and once I showed all the different ways that the scarf thingy worked, I think that's why it sold. So it's also purple, and purple people love purple, as we like to say here, but that is my Etsy sale, and now we're gonna go over to eBay because eBay is my main bag. So the first item I'm gonna share with you is this Lily Pulitzer piece. It is a men's polo, not a women. I rarely find Lily Pulitzers in my area, and when I do, it's normally the men's. But this is just a teal blue short sleeve polo, sold for $18, and Miss Moxie is joining us, so sold for $18 on an offer, and the buyer of course paid for shipping. The next set of items is a viewer sale. So Lisa, thank you so much. She took advantage of my buy 3 books, get 1 free offer, which has only been utilized by y'all. So I am grateful for y'all and sad that no one else seems to take advantage of it. I don't know why I've used it before when other sellers have done it. I don't know why nobody besides you guys are willing to do that for me, but I appreciate it, Lisa. She bought The Robots of Dawn by Isaac Asimov, New Persuasion by Jane Austen, a book about Rocky Mountain flora. So that would be like flowers, plants, trees, that kind of stuff. And then a new copy of Hard Times by Charles Dickens. So a couple of classics, and then a very nerdy book, which I appreciate, and then also the flora book. So thank you so much. She paid a total of $29.48, and then also paid $4.67 for shipping, which was great. I have moved most of my books to free shipping, but some of them still have shipping on there because it's a listing that continues to get views. I normally only take listings down and change them if it's gotten 0 views in 30 days. So that was just an amazing surprise. And Lisa, I appreciate you. I appreciate you making this purchase, and thank you so much. This is a handmade crochet granny square Christmas tree skirt. I picked this up at Diversity for $1, which was amazing. I went shopping with Melissa and found this lovely thing, and it sold on an offer for $20. They sent me a little message that says, please consider my offer. I would love this. And I was like, I paid $1 for it. Yes, you can have it. So I quickly accepted the offer, especially since it's so close to Christmas, and I paid $1 for this. So this was a wonderful sale. This was something I wanted to try. This was a vintage Chase Athletics piece. I picked this up at an estate sale for $1. It was like a flimsy polyester shirt, but I thought, you know, it's racing. Racing will sell, right? I guess not, but it did sell eventually for $5, so I made a couple bucks, and this went out of my inventory, which I was very grateful for. So I'm super happy whoever sent me that $5 offer. I appreciate you. This is a vintage piece. It's from the 70s. I picked this up recently at an estate sale. I actually picked up a bunch of vintage clothing at this estate sale. This was the second thing from that estate sale to sell. It was just a Puritan, spear point collar Puritan, I think is something that's sold at either Dillard's or like, I don't know, People's. What's the other one I'm trying to think of? It's not Macy's. JCPenney. Sold at JCPenney. But this is just, you know, from the 70s, sold for $14.34. And I think between that and the Jansen, I paid $50 for all the clothes. So these two have sold for a total of $44 at this point. So I need one more thing to sell, and everything else will be profit, which I think is pretty great. Another item I picked up at Diversity Thrift. This is a pair of vintage Lee original jeans. They're size 30-29, and they are made in the USA. This had the elastic waist instead of like the normal, you know, fly zip or button fly. These are just like pull-on jeans, sold for $13, and I paid $1 for this at Diversity. So I gave it a try just to see how it would do, and it was a long tail item, but it still sold. So this is an item I picked up at the Restore. I paid 10 cents for this. It came in that big book buyout that I did at the store. It sold for $9.87 with free shipping, so I paid roughly $4 to ship this, so I made $5. Perfectly happy to do that. Another item I picked up to try at Diversity on the Dollar Power Hour, and it sold for $7, a pair of Levi's Action Slacks. It's a pair of Levi's Action Slacks. Sometimes I will, if I get things really cheap, I will just try them, especially if it's a vintage piece, just to see will this sell. I actually picked up 2 of these. The first one sold almost immediately, and this one took a little bit longer to sell. Did sell for $7. I just accepted an offer. Perfectly happy with this. I probably won't pick these up again unless they're like interesting. Some of the vintage Action Slacks were made in like the 70s and they have really cool patterns on them. I might just do that, but I probably won't pick these up again unless of course I find them in Diversity Power Hour. Who knows? Well, never say never, right? This is a cool piece. Literally, it is a shirt from the brand Cool. I pick up anything cool when I find it. I actually didn't think this was going to sell as fast or as much as it did, but apparently even women's does very well. This is a women's small 3/4 sleeve. It had like lacy shoulders. It was an interesting piece, which is why I picked it up. And I've never found women's Cool before, so I just wanted to try it and see if it was the same as men's. And it is. Sold for my full asking price of $19.87, and I paid like $5 for this at the thrift store. This is a pair of Lucky Brand pants. These had like an interesting floral pattern on them. They're brand new. I picked them up at a thrift store for $9 because that's how much denim costs at my thrift stores here. And it sold for $23.90, and the buyer paid for padded flat rate shipping, which is great. This next item is a Madewell piece. You could see that I did use a stock photo. I don't normally use them as the first photo, like by themselves, unless like I literally can't figure out a way to make this work. So I did actually use stock photo here. It sold for $14 and the buyer paid for shipping. I had this for like almost 2 years at this point, so I will not pick this up again. You know, Madewell doesn't sell for as much or as quickly as it used to. But I will still pick up some pieces, but it's gonna have to be more substantial than this. If you did not know, bowling shoes can sell pretty well. I found these at a small thrift store by the Boys House, and it's a thrift store that has a tendency to mark most things up, but if they don't know what it is, they will mark it lower. I paid $6 for these at that thrift store. I actually own my own pair of Dexter bowling shoes because I have a weird thing about putting my feet into things other people have had their feet in, which is kind of funny considering that I thrift for a living, but it's not the same. Like, have you ever, like, when you were little, gone to a bowling alley, like, and it's a busy bowling alley, so they've just put the Lysol in there, so you put your feet in the bowling shoes after they've freshly been Lysoled, and it's damp and wet. It's gross. And ever since then I was like, nope, I need my own bowling shoes. That's why I have my own, and that's why I know other people are like me and don't want to experience that again. So these sold for $22.87, my full asking price, and they sold like the week I listed them. So, you know, if you find Dexter bowling shoes in really good shape, you do have to check to make sure there's like the felt is still there and in good shape. But otherwise, it should be easy sells. This is my first time finding G-Star Raw. I think I found these at the bins actually, so I didn't have much into them. They sold for $13. I've had these for forever, so I was just grateful that they're gone. So I still made a decent profit off of these because I did get them at the bins. But I probably won't pick up women's G-Star again. I know the men's still does pretty well, but I don't know. These just did not do as well as I'd hoped they would. This is that Columbia vest that someone said I should have taken the $7 offer I got when I was talking about it, I think on Instagram or something. I don't know. I just remember somebody be like, well, I would have accepted that offer. It's Columbia and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know I can sell this for more than $10. I've sold these between $10 to $15 to $20 repeatedly. So I did. I waited and I sent out like a 20% off offer because I had this listed for $14.87. And so I sent off 20% off offers like I do every day, and somebody accepted it. So I got $11.90 literally like a week after I made that post. So I know what's up. Sold for $11.90, and I will always pick up Columbia when it's cheap, and I believe I got that at the bins, but I'm not 100% sure. This is my favorite vintage brand, or one of my favorite vintage brands. It is Jansen. I just realized that that's all wonky. It's been wonky the whole time. It is Jansen. This is my favorite funky vintage sweater. It's this one right here. It is a men's medium Jansen sweater. This is Shetland wool and mohair. If it wasn't mohair, I may have kept this, but I was having an allergic reaction to it, which is why I decided to go ahead and sell it. It's from the 70s. Sold an offer of $25, and the buyer paid for shipping, paid a flat rate for shipping because it was a heavier wool. And yeah, I think I paid like $4 or $5 for this at a thrift store. Another piece for the big book buyout, so I paid 10 cents for this. It is a novel by John Updike. It doesn't matter unless you're going to find this as a brand new book. This is not going to come up for you. This, however, is a vintage book. It is one that I picked up at a thrift store. I paid $2 for this. It is a vintage from 1971 Playboy bartending drink recipe book. It did take a while to sell, but it did sell for $17. So, you know, I paid, well, it also had free shipping attached to it. So I made about $10 off of this, and I'm perfectly happy with that. This was free. I actually picked this out of the Hoarder House. This is the International Exposition that happened in 1915 in celebration of the opening of the Panama Canal. If you did not know, the Panama Canal opened in 1915. So it's only been available for people to travel through the Panama Canal for like a century or more. I think most people feel like it's been around forever, but it's not. It was a big achievement, and there was a lot of fanfare around it in the United States because, like, I'm not going to get in the history of it. That's why it's valuable. It's valuable because this was a very poignant and important part of history, and that's why this piece was this valuable. It sold for $19.50, and I got positive feedback. So if you find this kind of ephemera, that's what this is called. It's something that was made, you know, to celebrate this big thing, but something that people would have normally just like thrown away. It's kind of like a promotional thing for Remington typewriter, which we don't even use typewriters anymore. So that's why this stuff kind of gets thrown away, which is why it makes it valuable, is because there's not a whole lot of these anymore, and there are, you know, museums and collectors of this type of memorabilia. So that's why it's valuable. This is another item I picked up. I believe I picked this up at an estate sale. I paid 50 cents for it. It sold for $8.88. So I didn't make a lot, but I saved a nice book about Colonial Williamsburg from getting thrown away. This is a Cupshe bathing suit. I picked this up at the thrift store for $5, and I picked it up because it was brand new. I did not realize that Cupshe is one of those fast fashion brands when I did it. But as we talked about before, I have been trying to do more swimwear. That is like the new section I've been trying to learn more about. This paid out for me. I made like, you know, $8 or $9 bucks for this, despite, you know, me making the mistake and picking a fast fashion brand. It still sold for $14, so I'm pretty happy about this, and I have learned my lesson. This is a book lot. I actually offered all of these books individually up on my whatnot. Nobody bought them. I'm not surprised because they're Highline. Highline has a couple of books that are good, but a lot of stuff that are problematic. So I'm not surprised that these didn't sell. They're also not his more famous ones. So I put these three in a lot because I had 3 Highline books that I didn't know what to do with, and they sold for $10.94. I paid, I think, maybe total like $1.75 for all of these. So for them to sell for $10.94, I saved some books from the trash, and then I made like $5 to $6. So I'm pretty happy with that. This is actually retail arbitrage. I don't do it very often. I normally only do it this time of year. In preparation for Christmas, because people want to give new gifts, not necessarily thrifted gifts. So I do try to have some more like new items in the store, which is also why I decided to do the big book buyout as well, because most of it was new books, and I know people give books as gifts year round. It's also a great way to, it's more like evergreen store content because books don't really have a season. Also, I love them. I paid $8 for this at a store that I will not mention because it's retail arbitrage, and I still have a bunch of these. So I paid $8 in total, and it sold on an offer for $18, and then the buyer paid for shipping because these are very heavy. It's a big Rise of the Dragon. It's a like a illustrated history of the Targaryen family, which is a made-up family because it's from Game of Thrones. But beautiful book. I got a few of these, so if you would like one of these coffee table books for yourself, they are in my store. Already started selling them as soon as I listed them, which was a nice surprise. This is part of that big book buyout. This is one of the items that was not new, so that's why it's marked for $6.87. I paid 10 cents for this. Sold very quickly. I was actually planning to read this one, but it sold before I could do that. This is something I picked up last Thriftmas at the Restore in Gloucester. This is a set of vintage Christmas. It's new old stock. They are little Shiny Brights. Now, Shiny Bright is a great brand, but you need the Mercury glass Shiny Brights, not these Porygon Shiny Brights. Polaron, not Porygon. That's a Pokemon. Polaron. The Polarons are like the plastic ones. That's what they called it. Then are wrapped in like thread. I mean, if you can get more interesting looking ones than the larger ones, they can still be pretty valuable if they're new in the package, but mostly it's the Mercury glass ones that you're gonna wanna pick up for Shiny Bright. These still sold for $8. I paid $1 for these at that thrift store. This is another viewer sale. Dorothy is a grand supporter of the channel. She's also just a lovely human being. Moxie is gonna also say thank you, because, you know, I know you love her. She bought this vintage mid-century Linux piece. I only pick up Linux if it is brand new or if it is vintage, so made in the USA. I believe in the late 80s, early 90s is when Linux stopped being made in the USA and they shifted to made in China. And then also in my area, they have a tendency to get marked up here. But this actually was only $6 and I picked it up at the Goodwill. When I went thrifting with Melissa when she was over here last. It sold to Dorothy, so Dorothy, thank you. It's a beautiful piece. I picked it up because it was green. Most of the Linux stuff that I find is the ivory colored or the cream colored. And so it was just nice to find one of their more desirable colors or rarer colors, and it's really great that it went to a viewer. So Dorothy, thank you. I hope you are enjoying it, and hopefully maybe you're decorating with it for Christmas because it is green, right? This is another book. I actually picked this up at the bin, so I paid 50 cents for this because it was a hardcover. A terrible title. Man, no wonder it took a while to sell. I am glad that it sold then, because that is a terrible title. Anyway, it's a library binding. That's what it's trying to say there, but I could have taken other stuff out in order to make this a better title. It still sold for $12.87. It cost $4.50 to send this. So, you know, I made $7 or $8 and saved something from the trash, especially considering it's a great piece of, well, it's not a great piece. It is history that deserves to be read and appreciated. So there is that. This is something I picked up at an estate sale. I paid $1 for this. I got called during COVID by an estate sale company that I had made a connection with, and they're like, we have all this clothing, you know, just fill up a bag or fill up your car and, you know, just give me a price and you'll pay that price. So that is what I did, and it was awesome. This is Odeli. It was an Anthropologie house brand. I'm sure they don't carry it anymore, but this was a size 2, and it did need to go onto Karen before it sold. As soon as I took a picture of it on Karen and styled it the way it was supposed to be, it sold pretty quickly after that. It sold for $13 and the buyer paid for shipping. This is something I never got to show you guys. I got this actually at the Dav by my house. It is a Karl Lagerfeld piece, and I picked this up because it is an obnoxious Karl Lagerfeld piece, and those are the ones that sell the best. Sold for $18, and I paid $5 for this at the Dav. This is another viewer sale. Amanda, I think this is her first purchase from me. So Amanda, thank you very much. I appreciate it. She bought this beautiful little vintage piece. I've talked about rust multiple times on this channel. And when I showed this in a recent haul, she picked it up from me. Amanda, I hope it looks lovely on you. I'm sure it does. It was just these beautiful Southwest colors. And these like 90s knits, these 90s and these Y2K knits just always perform well in my store. And they're just very flattering and very cute. So I hope you love it. I appreciate you buying this from me. She paid my full asking price of $17.87 and shipping. So Amanda, thank you so much. I appreciate you and I hope you love it. Then the last item I have to share with you is another book. This is another 10-cent book. Again, some of it, over 90% of it was brand new books, and then the other bit was just stuff that I didn't want to leave behind. This is Nietzsche, who is a philosopher, if you did not know, and this is one of his treatises, Beyond Good and Evil. I would recommend reading him if you have free time and want to be depressed. It's a very depressing view of life and the world, but it is interesting to read. I have a minor in philosophy, that's why I've read a lot of him. Sold for $7.87, so $4 to ship, 10 cents. I saved a vintage book from the trash because this was from the 60s. So there you go. Happy about that. Happy about all my sales. Really nice that so many viewers purchased from me. So again, Lisa, Dot, and Amanda, thank you guys so much for your support. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday. If you are American and celebrated Thanksgiving, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, bye. Bye.
Hero, I wanna be a hero.